Hello everyone and welcome back to another financial planning video. My name is Erin Varghese and I'm a financial planner here at Pure Portfolios. Today's video is all about planning for the worst case scenario. Most of us turn to the news nowadays and we are bombarded by doom and gloom. Between the market start to 2022, inflation at an all-time high, the Fed rate hikes, and the Russia-Ukraine conflict, it feels like the walls are caving in around us. Each of these scenarios alone feel like a mini crisis, but we've been hit with all of them all at once. And as advisors, we're often asked, what can I do to mitigate risk? What can I do to mitigate damage? Now, unfortunately, we don't have a crystal ball, but we are able to help you plan for the worst case scenarios so that when turmoil does hit, you're able to ride these waves with peace of mind. I think the graphic on the screen here will resonate with a lot of us. On the top here, we have our ideal plan. It's a smooth ride, we can see the finish line, and there are no signs of bumps along the way. But we know this isn't reality. Life is messy, pain is inevitable, and you're going to face challenges along the way. Now, I don't know where this quote originated, but there's a lot of smart people who are thought to have said that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So what we attempt to do through the financial planning process is plan for the worst case scenarios so that when everything feels like it's going to hell in a handbasket, your plan is bulletproof, we've built in a margin of safety, and when turmoil hits, you can confidently ride the waves with peace of mind and you can sleep at night. So in our last planning video, we went over the financial planning process and the life cycle that financial planning tends to take on. I briefly mentioned in that video some of the assumptions that we have to make because there's a lot of unknowns. So what we do is attempt to make educated assumptions based on the things that we do know. We tend to be more conservative on the factors like future earnings, inheritances, and return assumptions, and we try to be more aggressive on expenses, tax rates, and inflation. Now, the purpose of all of this is to build in that margin of safety. So I'm going to introduce you to our clients, Frank and Jane Esposito. They're getting ready to retire. They have 2 adult children and a couple of grandkids. So collectively, they have saved about $1.8 million, and this is across a couple of different accounts, like a 401k, a Roth IRA, and a taxable or brokerage account. They also own their own home and are planning to pay off their mortgage before they retire. What we ultimately want to know through the financial planning process is, can you continue with your standard of living without running out of money? Now, there's a lot of factors that go into building out a financial plan, but what we want to hit on today is all of the outside noise and worries that we often hear people talking about. What is inflation going to look like in 20 years? Are tax rates going to go up? What happens if I have a long-term care event? What happens if I have lower future returns? And this goes back to the assumptions that we make in the beginning. If we built in 10% annualized returns in all of your accounts, you're probably going to have a pretty good outcome. But what we want to do is stress test your plan to build in all of these different factors and see if your plan can weather the worst case scenario. So let's take a look at Frank and Jane's portfolio, see what it looks like now, and see what happens when we add in all of these different factors. Okay, this is Frank and Jane Esposito's current portfolio value, and we see this projected over their total lifetime. So this goes out about 40 years. And we are looking at this in terms of present value dollars and linear projections. So this is their base facts. This is all of the assumptions that they've given us, that we've created together, the expenses that they'll have over the years, and we've all plugged it into the plan. At this point, their plan does work. This is all of the things that they would want to have happen, the vacations that they want to take, the type of lifestyle that they want to live. Their plan works and they don't run out of money. But they're concerned about a lot of different areas like high inflation, lower future returns, a long-term care event for Frank, and potential future increased tax rates. So let's take a look at each of these areas and see how it changes the plan. So the first thing that we are going to look at is the default growth rate assumptions. We have in here a conservative 5% rate of return, but what we want to see is what would happen if the markets returned 0% over the next 40 years. What if they made no more money? All of the money that they have saved and invested over the years is going to stay stagnant. With their current assumptions, what does that do for their plan? So you can see a pretty big drop. Just from having 0% returns over the next 40 years, they've lost a total of almost $2.2 million over their total lifetime of their portfolio. But what we see at the end is that they still haven't run out of money. Their net worth at end of life is over $2 million, total portfolio assets, $1.8 million. That's a good chunk of money to end your life with. This is also a really empowering place to be for a couple of reasons. One, they're not relying on outsized market returns to supplement their lifestyle. They don't need to achieve a certain rate of return in order to continue spending at the rate that they're spending at. This also then leans into what their portfolio positioning is going to be. Since they're not relying on their portfolio to make them any extra money, you could make the case for them to be ultra conservative to try to preserve everything that they have grown over the years. Or you could make the case to be ultra aggressive. Maybe they want to have charitable contributions at the end of their life. Maybe they want to fund their children's retirement or their grandkids' education and retirement. This is a really great opportunity for them to build generational wealth, and seeing that their retirement is not tied to a certain level of return outcomes is a really empowering place for them to be. Next, we're going to add in the inflation factor. We default to a 2.26 inflation rate, but we've ratcheted it up to 5%. Now, what this means is that all their expenses are going to be increased at a rate of 5% every single year. So rather than increasing 2.25%, it's going to be increasing double that. Now, again, we see it's the same outcome as our default growth rate return. We are still not running out of money. Even with increased inflation, even with those increased expenses, their plan still works. Now, the last two things that we're going to add on is our tax rate assumptions, our future tax rates, and a long-term care event. In our previous facts, we had no long-term care event, just their natural spending over their lifetime. So we've added in an extra $50,000 annually for the last 5 years of Frank's life. And we're also going to add in tax rate assumptions that they are increasing 5% year over year in taxes in retirement. So with these two assumptions, we have lost another $200,000 in value over their lifetime. So these aren't huge factors like the inflation rate or the default growth rate, but they still make an impact on the overall outcome of their portfolio. So even still, with all of our original assumptions, Frank and Jane fare pretty well. They end their plan with more than enough money. Now, is it likely that all of these factors would happen all at once and to the extent that we've projected them at? The answer is probably not. It's unlikely that all of these things would stack on top of each other. But if it did, if Frank and Jane's worst case scenario really did come to fruition, they would know that they would be okay and they can go about their retirement life with peace of mind and without a worry in the world. So in today's video, we talked all about planning for the worst case scenario. In our next planning video, we are going to be covering how to optimize all of the things that are in your control. We'll see you in our next financial planning video. Bye.